I'm sorry if I sound congested. I am, but I promised to make a video about the Democrat debate on October 15th, 2019, and so here I am. People have been asking for it, and so I'm going to plug ahead despite not doing or sounding my best. CNN is actually controlling access to the video of that debate, and see, they hosted the event, so they technically own the copyrights to it, and they're using that to take down other people's videos. As such, I'll just be showing short clips, which I think is probably all you want to see anyway, in truth, but that will keep us kosher with the fair use principles of copyright law. Technically, the whole thing is essentially a government function. This is, a debate over who will represent the Democrat Party, to potentially be president, to go up against President Trump, but I'm sure that they would argue in court that it's a private function. And no YouTuber, myself included, wants to get tied up in a lawsuit against CNN of all companies. Yeah, I've got better things to do with my time. So, Tulsi Gabbard actually recently complained about how the DNC prevents candidates from appearing in debates that the DNC doesn't authorize. For example, you won't ever see a debate now, a Democrat debate, on OAN or even on Fox News now. They want to carefully control who has access to these candidates. And so they're essentially shielding the candidates behind CNN and other incestuously friendly allies who'll throw softball questions at them and make sure that they don't get anything particularly difficult. That's where we are. Now, I could spend 12 hours, really, pointing out every lie that came up in this 3-hour debate. But instead, we'll just go over essentially the highlights or lowlights. Kamala Harris was really off the rails in just how tyrannical she was. But Cory Booker was in second place. He was playing his typical role of angry black man / Spartacus. Right? But the whole thing, it began with impeachment talks. They literally started the debate talking about how they need to impeach Donald Trump. I mean, isn't this a debate as to who goes against Donald Trump, who runs against him, and it allows the public to choose whether it's Trump or this person? But no, they're still going for impeachment. It tells me that they don't think that they're going to win. But as you watch this clip, I want you to remind yourself, Trump has not been convicted of anything. Nothing. And ask yourself if there is an agenda here.
Why shouldn't it be the voters who determine the president's fate?
It's going to be about impeachment. I called for opening an impeachment inquiry. Impeachment is the way. This is about Donald Trump, but the impeachment must go forward.
Thank you, Senator Warren. You're all going to get in on this, by the way.
Impeachment, not only to a speedy and expeditious impeachment process.
Would have no choice but to begin an impeachment proceeding, which gives them more power to seek more information.
I don't really think this impeachment process is going to take very long. This will not take very long.
We are talking about ongoing proceedings to remove a sitting president for office.
To pursue this impeachment.
We have to impeach this president.
Remember, one way or the other, this presidency is going to come to an end. I want you to picture what it's going to be like, what it's actually going to feel like in this country the first day the sun comes up after Donald Trump has been president. It starts out feeling like a happy thought. This particular brand of chaos and corruption will be over, but really think about where we'll be. Vulnerable, even more torn apart by politics than we are right now.
Calls for impeachment really began shortly after Trump won his election.
I started the need to impeach movement, impeaching and removing.
I support impeachment. We need to present a new vision, and that even includes talking about impeaching Donald Trump.
Yes, they were relentless. Tulsi Gabbard kind of stood out in this regard in that she said that it should be up to the people. Nobody else did. She was essentially saying that the democratic system should decide. But the rest of them said that you can't leave it up to the people. I can't believe that they argued that on a national stage in front of those people, in front of the voters, that they weren't ashamed of this position. Apparently, we the people can't be trusted to make, good choices. Those people, our elites, our betters, will make that decision for us. Yeah. Mayor Pete actually said something that I agree with, which makes me feel almost dirty, but he pointed out just how Elizabeth Warren speaks in circles. Take a look.
Well, we heard it tonight. A yes or no question that didn't get a yes or no answer.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever agreed with him about anything before, but he's right. Elizabeth Warren, just like Hillary Clinton, has this incredible ability to avoid answering any question. You know, regardless of how simple it is, she will talk until you don't remember what the original question was. Biden, Joe Biden, to his credit, pointed out once again how all of these fanciful policies that they're pushing and promoting aren't going to be paid for. We don't have the money. They're impossibilities.
The plan is going to cost at least $30 trillion over 10 years. That is more on a yearly basis than the entire federal budget. And we talk about how we're going to pay for it. The study recently came out showing that, in fact, it will reduce cost. But for people making between $50,000 and $75,000 a year, their taxes are going to go up about $5,000. Because the fact is, they'll pay more in new taxes, 7.4%. Plus or 5% plus a 4% income tax. If a fireman and a school teacher are making $100,000 a year, their taxes are going to go up about 10 grand. That is more than they will possibly save on this healthcare plan.
Of course, when their policies do cause the economy to collapse, if they actually took effect, we would be even less able to afford the programs that they're pushing now than we are now, right? I mean, if you did everything they wanted and destroyed the entire economy through this free college and free healthcare for everybody, including the entire world who can come here, so we don't have any money, and inflation's super high because you're giving everyone $1,000 or more a month, and our welfare is massive, and so we're printing extra money to give out to all of these different families everywhere, so our money has no value here or around the world. Our economy just collapses to be like Venezuela. Yes, the socialist Venezuela. How then would we be able to keep up with these policies? We wouldn't. That's what happens in socialistic systems. You have all these different great welfare, programs, and everyone's going to have free stuff, and then suddenly we don't have any money for that free stuff. Government runs out of other people's money. It's what happens. Kamala Harris again came across as the most evil woman, as the tyrant on stage, and she has some real competition with Beto O'Rourke, but she referred to abortion as saving lives. I'm not even sure if she knows what abortion is.
It is not an exaggeration to say women will die. Poor women, women of color will die because these Republican legislatures in these various states who are out of touch with America are telling women what to do with our bodies.
This shouldn't come as very shocking, but abortion does not save lives. You can say that it prevents lives, you can say that it ends lives, but it doesn't save them. It's just untrue. And she says this like it's some kind of moral imperative, which makes it kind of nauseating, to be frank. And then they all started talking about automation, how our jobs are going to be lost to automation. And apparently, we can solve automation by increasing the minimum wage. Of course, increasing the minimum wage actually causes jobs to be lost to automation. That's how people get replaced by kiosks. As you can look at, the fast food industry, as we've had a $15 minimum wage come into effect in California and Washington, D.C., and I think Seattle, Washington. Yeah, what happens is people get replaced by machines because people then become more expensive than those machines, right? And it's the same thing with big companies who are replacing people with robots inside of their factories. Because those robots don't unionize and they don't demand $20 an hour plus benefits. The easiest way to, increase automation, to increase the replacement of people by robots is raising the minimum wage past what companies can afford. Julian Castro then went on to outdo this marvelous idea by saying that signing in the Green New Deal will help prevent automation replacement. See, how does putting all of our coal miners out of work help prevent automation? I'm still struggling to figure this one out.
I would invest in infrastructure to put people back to work. I would invest in a Green New Deal to unleash millions of new jobs in a clean energy economy.
Will there be any jobs left without gasoline or electricity? So it's a genuine question. I know we're not supposed to ask, but I'm asking. What are we supposed to do? What are all those jobs in that doesn't use either of those things? Because I'll tell you, all of our different, replacement of carbon emissions methods all use some sort of carbon somewhere along the lines. We can't actually pass the Green New Deal and have a nation. We can't. Just forget it. We couldn't do that. But just live in fantasy world if you're watching these debates, because that's where they're living. And Bernie Sanders actually had the audacity to mention the number of people who are homeless on American streets.
When you have 500,000 Americans sleeping out on the street today.
Now this is kind of a how dare you moment. He wants mass immigration, which increases the labor force, right? We've got too many workers at that point, and it drives down the price per hour or the wages that people get paid. It increases, therefore, the likelihood that people will end up on the streets. And this is the guy, of course, who has 3 houses and likes to lecture us about the rich. But he also wants a $15 minimum wage. $15 minimum wage causes people to get fired because companies can't afford it, especially in poorer industries like, say, fast food and like retail. This forces people on the streets because they can't get jobs, because they can't get hired. And he has the audacity to talk about our homeless? Really? They even talked about a wealth tax. If you don't know what that is, you're fortunate. But it's taxing the money that you already have. It's not an income tax. It's actually in addition to an income tax. If you managed to set some money aside to save some money, and you have it, I don't know, in stocks or in a bank account, they want to tax that too. They want to tax what you managed to save to discourage you from saving it. Just to steal from you, essentially. I'm going to call it like it is. They want to steal that money too. Andrew Yang was true. He was right when he said that a wealth tax has failed everywhere that's been tried, but he failed to mention that so has universal basic income, and that's what he is recommending for us at the $1,000 a month rate. But, he didn't mention that. Then, Tulsi Gabbard was refreshingly opposed to endless war in Syria. I have to say, that was actually kind of a highlight of the debate for me. Then, Joe Biden prophesized something great that Trump will do if re-elected. And honestly, I think Donald Trump ought to use this in one of his re-election ads. Seriously.
If he is re-elected, I promise you, there will be no NATO. Our security will be vastly underrated. We will be in real trouble.
We'll be in real trouble without NATO. We will. The United States. I don't think so. If we left NATO, we would save billions, that's with a B, a year. Billions. But more importantly than that, for me, is that the countries in Europe that rely upon our defense, our money for their defense, would have to pay for it themselves. You see, those countries over in Europe who have massive welfare states, and that includes a socialized or nationalized healthcare system, rely on us for defense. It's how they can afford such things as a nationalized healthcare system. And our leftists over here in the United States point to those countries as what we ought to be like. Or if somebody else would pay for our defense, maybe we could be like that. But the truth is that it is fanciful. It's impossible. When you have to pay for your own defense and take care of yourself, and also deal with healthcare, for example, free for everyone, including those who just cross the border, you can't do that. And so the best thing that would come out of us leaving NATO or NATO collapsing is that those countries would have to start fending for themselves, and they would show our leftists that you can't aspire to that because you're aspiring to an impossibility. Next, they bragged about taking away your guns, and this has been a pattern in basically every debate. If you elect any of these people, they will take away your right to defend yourself, your fundamental, God-given right to defend yourself. And even the moderators were incredibly aggressive on taking away your rights. Take a look.
Senator Klobuchar, you support a voluntary buyback, if I'm correct, right? What is wrong with a mandatory buyback?
Yes, what could be wrong with a mandatory buyback? Can you think of anything? Does anything spring to mind? And just so that we're all on the same page, when we're talking about a mandatory buyback, we're talking about confiscation of guns, with SWAT teams, with people showing up at your house to take away your firearm at gunpoint. That's what mandatory really means. And you can't... They can't buy it back. You never bought it from the government. You bought it from a gun store. You're not selling it back to the gun store, it's to the government. The government is taking it from you, and they're taking your rights away. And, you know, it's like Biden, he wants to create a gun registry. He's not going to have a mandatory buyback just yet, but he wants his gun registry so that they know whose doors to knock on later. That's always been what gun registries have been about. Kamala Harris took the cake, and she always does when it comes to like a tyrannical issue. For some reason, she just manages to just stay on top. In this case, she said she would take away your rights via an executive order. She admits this on a public stage prior to being elected.
When I'm elected, I'll give them 100 days to pull their act together, put a bill on my desk for signature, and if they don't, I will take executive action and put in place a comprehensive background check requirement and ban the importation of assault weapons into our country, because it is time to act.
What is an assault rifle, you might ask? It's anything that isn't a musket. Yes, sometimes it's anything that's black, but most of the time they'll talk to you about how, when the Constitution was written, all we had were muskets. Actually, we had cannons, but they don't want you to actually have a cannon, so they just default to musket. Yeah, they just want to take your rights away. It doesn't matter. Frankly, they'd take your muskets too if they thought they could do it as easily. Next, CNN's internet stream hilariously stopped in the middle of a discussion about big tech. But that discussion about big tech wasn't particularly helpful anyway, because they mostly dodged any questions about free speech or censorship. They know who helps them to win elections. Yeah, big tech. Kamala Harris then reiterated that Trump should be banned from Twitter, showing just how unbelievably authoritarian she is.
I called on Twitter to suspend Donald Trump's account that you did not agree, and I would urge you to join me, because here we have Donald Trump, who has 65 million Twitter followers, and is using that platform as the President of the United States.
I have to be honest here. I wish Trump would be banned from Twitter. Honestly, I wish he would be banned, so that not only would Twitter die, but that Trump would leave and go to another platform like Gab or what have you, where he could speak freely, but more importantly, his supporters could speak freely too. It would be, frankly, phenomenal, and I think that Twitter knows that, and that's why he's not banned. It's not because they're trying to do the right thing, it's not because they respect the office of the presidency, we know that they don't. It's simply because he's keeping their business afloat. And they know it. Twitter was dying prior to Trump using them during the 2016 election. And they just won't quite die now. He keeps them lit up because every time Trump tweets, all the news media mentions Twitter, and it's like a draw to that platform that ought to be a sinking ship. Tulsi Gabbard, I do want to point out, stood out on the abortion topic by repeating the old Democrat mantra that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. And that used to be something that not only Hillary Clinton, but basically all of the Democrats said. And now, it's offensive, and even misogynistic. If you haven't caught on, it's because of the word rare. By saying that abortion should be rare, you're saying something wrong. You see, we've actually reached a point where abortion should apparently be encouraged. I can't wrap my head around that argument. Usually I can at least understand where they're coming from. That just seems evil. That's all it seems. And Tulsi Gabbard has been in trouble with the rest of the Democrats ever since saying that abortion should be rare. I mean, I'm not a fan of hers, for multiple reasons, including her signing on to the Equality Act, which puts men in girls' bathrooms. It's a pretty big deal. But on the abortion topic, it was just kind of shocking the way the rest of them found that offensive, found rare to be offensive. But the whole thing was this big argument in hypocrisy and talking through two tongues. They'd say one thing and they do another, like how Bernie Sanders likes to talk about the minimum wage and how it should be raised, but he wouldn't give his own staffers $15 in a minimum wage. And when he did give them that much because there was so much public pressure, he reduced their hours. Oh, how about that? How about that? That's exactly what happens in the business world. People's hours get reduced and people get laid off from their jobs. Yeah. These people are all raging hypocrites, but the entire debate was frankly disgusting. It was 3 hours long of them talking, and they don't even pretend to be decent people at this point. They're campaigning against your right to free speech, your right to defend yourself, against your basic liberties. And I understand that some people become authoritarian when they reach a position of power, right? It's long been said that the more power you have, well, the more power mad you become. But these people aren't even in the office yet, and they're campaigning now as tyrants. You should remember that when you go to vote.
Stop, don't leave yet. Since you made it to the end, you probably enjoyed that video. In that case, here are some other videos that you might enjoy. The updates link at the top will provide you with better ways to be more reliably notified of new videos, and it also has social media information, that kind of thing. That's because you know how this site is. Well, the link at the bottom, the store link, that's in case you're looking for merchandise or our healthier products. Thanks.